Welcome to Wild Turkey Science, a podcast made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow. I'm Dr. Marcus Lashley, Professor of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Florida.
And I'm Dr. Will Goolsby, Professor of Wildlife Ecology and Management at Auburn University. We're both lifelong hunters and devoted scientists who are passionate about hunting, managing, and researching wild turkeys.
In this podcast, we'll explore turkey research, speak to the experts in the field, and address the difficult questions related to wild turkey ecology and management.
Our goal
is to serve as your connection to wild turkey science. I have been spending a lot of my time actually beta testing, going through, in other words, this new course that we're launching.
Yeah.
I hadn't quite gotten to the content you contributed. But
Saving the best for last, I see.
I'm right in the middle of Mark Turner's field management stuff, and I'll be honest with you, I'm learning from it.
That's great.
You know, and I would say that's one of my strengths personally is field management, particularly for poult, for poult cover. But man, it's really good.
So
it's really good.
So what are some of the topics covered in it? What's that overview?
Well, so we have we sat down as a team. We also interviewed a bunch of different people, scientists and researchers, managers, some of them state agencies, some of them private landowners, trying to figure out what people wanted. Mm-hmm. Because the whole idea, just for people real quick, we've been getting a lot of questions and people were hungry for opportunities to learn. You and I have been trying to address that. We're trying to address it right now in one form, right? We also put out content all the time on social media. You and I recently did an in-person training, and I thought that was really comprehensive and successful, and the people that attended it seemed to think so. But a lot of folks, in response to that, and just over the past little bit, have really keyed in on having something that they could take on their own time wherever they're at, so they don't have to travel somewhere, and it also to be comprehensive and coherent. You know, they don't want to have to go try to piece together 500 YouTube videos and podcast episodes trying to put together that all into one thing. So we have been working diligently for months, and I know that you're aware because you contributed one of the modules, which we're very appreciative of this. Well, two, I guess, but one in this one that we're launching. I guess it'll be today. When this comes out is the same day it launches. So if you haven't heard of this, in the show notes, there's a link. You can sign up and take the course right now. So all that to say, we came up with a list of maybe 12 to 14 topics that we thought are absolutely of strong interest. They're covering different aspects of what people care about with turkey. Mm-hmm. The one we're launching today is focused on how to manage stuff that most landowners have control over, right? Like you can manage habitat quality in various circumstances, or you can manage populations by trying to understand, how many turkeys you have, how many you can take, predator removal, how does that integrate into this whole thing? So that's what we try to focus in. And I think of this really as an advanced course for those enthusiasts that are really interested in understanding how they can move the needle on their ground.
Right.
We also have a whole bunch of state agency professionals in several states that are signing up or already have. So I think it is at a level that it could be of great interest even to a biologist that's managing a WMA.
Okay.
The topics include things like what I'm watching right now with Mark Turner is field management. He also has contributed one that's on food plots. And for those of you that don't that name doesn't resonate with. Mark studied with you for his master's, with
Mhm.
Craig Harper for his PhD, and with me for his postdoc, and now he's a faculty member running his own lab at Oklahoma State.
Mhm.
Pretty strong pedigree, especially field management, wildlife management, habitat management.
Probably picked up all the best attributes from the 3 of us and left all the rest
He certainly
discarded.
did leave all the bad things for me. He left all that. But, it's a really engaging thing, and like I said, we all have different interests and expertise, and he kinda got the best of all those
Yeah.
and, put together a really strong module on that. So we got, the field stuff, whether it's managing native plant communities or food plots. We've got forest and improvement from Craig Harper, the pioneer of that
Right.
from my point of view,
Yeah.
especially for turkey
I
management.
agree.
We had you contribute on predator management, and you also did a case study where you showed
Mhm.
how you went through a property to set it up,
Yeah.
put together all these concepts from habitat management. Craig also provided that. We had Dwayne Elmore provided a module like that.
Mhm.
So, you get multiple case studies where we actually walk you through implementing these strategically on a property. And
Mhm.
man, that that's something you can't get anywhere else.
And I bet what's really interesting about that too is to see the way that, each of us approaches it a little bit differently, because that's kinda getting into the art of management, right?
Yeah, it
We
is.
can.
It's a canvas, and you
Yeah.
guys have a different painting strategy, but there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
And I think that's remarkable. And I learned
Yeah.
such a tremendous amount from just listening to you guys because I have a different painting strategy as well.
Yeah.
And like we're lifetime learners, and I think our listeners are for the
Yeah.
large part. I'm watching it get, and I'm taking notes.
Mhm.
Like I'm trying to refine my own understanding, my own presentation, my own painting of the canvas, if you will.
Golly, man, you're creating homework for me now.
Yeah, like,
I'm gonna have to go through it too.
well, you
You've
should,
piqued
man.
you've piqued my interest.
Well, this thing, like, I take some ownership. Like, I had the vision to do it and brought together the best of the best. The habitat managers, all of you work on that. We've got Mark McConnell, the Upland Game Bird Chair at Mississippi State, is providing stuff with cost share programs, how you can use cost share programs to help you implement things on your land. I mean, like this, it's a powerful thing.
Yeah.
I did some stuff with forest management, but it was after I knew what everybody else contributed. It's kind of hard. You guys are a hard act to follow, man.
Nah, I don't know about that. I'm sure your
So,
stuff is really good too, but
well,
I'm glad you
I think
included
it's
the cost share stuff. I definitely wanna listen to McConnell talk about that.
yeah, no, it's so good, you know. And I'm excited about it because we're releasing it to the world, and we've already got a ton of people. We had several advertisements trying to stimulate interest and kind of
Mhm.
understand what the interest was. So we've got tons of people pre-enrolled, and a bunch of state agencies reached out about getting their staff involved in it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it because there wasn't anything like this.
Yeah. What's the cost?
So it's $150,
Oh,
which
wow.
I think
Yeah,
is
that's a really good value for that.
yeah, what a
It's like
tremendous value.
I think
And
Charlotte said it was like 10 hours of content?
yeah, that seems about right. But, you know, this is something we probably spent more time on that than just about anything. Like, what is the price point? Because we don't want it to be a deterrent to
Right,
people, but the reality of the matter is it has to pay for itself, or we
right.
can't keep it.
Mhm.
We can't develop it and keep it and continue to refine it over the years. Like we're going to be adding stuff to it,
Yeah.
like that we have to charge something so that it pays for itself, or it's
Sure.
not sustainable. So all of the proceeds go right back into maintaining the course and developing information and refining it over time.
Mm-hmm.
So, even if you think maybe you already know everything, even just enrolling just for that can help us, because it helps us sustain it. So I
Right.
think there's probably some people that feel that way. Well, I don't need the course, but I think others do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can help us out with that, or just, if you want to help, you can donate, I guess, directly. But
So when you buy it, do you have unlimited access to it, or is it like
yeah,
how does that work?
so we had to. We're also working within the bounds of the university
Sure.
policies and everything. So what we were able to get is unlimited access for 90 days,
Okay.
which hopefully is plenty of time for folks on a case by case basis. If we had to, we might be able to adjust that. But
Mm-hmm.
that was something that the administration seemed pretty strong on.
Right.
So I was trying to get it as relaxed as possible.
Right. I mean, but you can't make it too relaxed, or then it gets shared around and nobody buys it anymore, and you don't have the
Yeah.
funding to keep it going, like you were just talking about.
Right. I'm just excited about it to be able to provide this. You and I both feel this way because I've seen you react this way. Like, we're so excited to share information with people and see that get utilized for the benefit of the resource. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I'm here for.
Yeah, I think the aspect of it that excites me the most is how, we know that we're going to have to really move the needle on private lands to reverse a lot of the declines that we're seeing, that,
Yeah.
you and I pretty strongly believe that the majority of what we're seeing in the areas turkeys are declining is associated with habitat changes
Yeah.
for a variety of reasons that we've laid out over a number of episodes. Um, but it's so complicated to remedy habitat issues on private land, to the point that, I mean, there are certain people that have said that there's no way you're going to restore turkey habitat on private lands, and they've
Well,
kind of
that
thrown their hands up in the air on how to
I
do that.
know it.
But
And
I think this is one way we can
yeah, at
move it forward.
scale. And the other thing, like, those case studies that you guys provided,
Yeah,
those are real world examples. You went in and aggressively changed management to
yeah,
benefit turkeys, and then it benefited turkeys in a big way on those properties.
yeah.
Those weren't selected on accident.
That's right. I just had a landowner actually reach out a couple days ago. I just replied to him this morning, but sent me an email, and I went and did a site visit with him, and got him set up with a plan and everything, going forward on how to manage that. And he reached out today specifically about a ryegrass problem that he was having.
Imagine that.
Big surprise there.
We do talk about how, in detail, how to address that problem.
Yeah, hot
Go
topic
ahead.
this time of year for sure. But yeah, I mean, on a at the higher level though, he informed me that the turkeys were responding very positively to what he's implemented out there so far.
Yeah,
And this is only, I get man, I visited his property last summer, so already the first spring after he implemented a lot of those changes. Now he ripped the band-aid off, and he did a lot
yeah.
quick, but he's seeing results from that.
Well, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, 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 whatever." If you get aggressive, if you have a bottleneck at poult rearing because you have crappy poult rearing cover, you can address that this year.
Yeah,
That I mean, I think we're going to do this episode. Maybe it'll be the next one, but we've got all these imprinted poults, and we're
yeah,
evaluating, what's going on with poults at that stage. And I can tell you, those little voracious predators just need the opportunity to be predators.
hmm,
They need a place that they can safely forage for bugs.
right.
And if you can provide that with an annual herbaceous forb dominated plant community this year, like, it can happen really fast.
Yeah. I would say the only caveat to that is, I mean, if you have some open ground. If you
Yeah,
have to create some open ground, then it may take a little bit longer, but if it's already there, that's the great
yeah.
thing about poult rearing cover.
But
It
if
is
you have
super
some open
rare.
woods, you could still do it this
That's
year.
right. you
even in that case.
it's super rare to find that poult rearing cover, but at the same time, when you go to intentionally create it, it happens fast.
Yeah. So all that to say, doubling, which I think would be completely reasonable, maybe even more, but doubling poult survival 1 year
Mhm.
is going to make a big difference in how many turkeys there are
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
Now they might be Jennies and Jakes. So the
Well,
common complaint that I've heard is, man, now all our Jakes are in these huge groups
well, you
and
gotta
ruining
accept
our
that.
hunts.
You gotta accept that if you have high production,
That's a
you know?
pretty darn good problem to have, isn't it?
It is a good problem to have.
You gotta appreciate the gang of Jakes. You know, like I just smile when the gang of Jakes comes through.
You got me off track, there was something else
I'm sorry
I
about
was
it,
gonna yeah,
but
that's
I
fine.
mean, this is what we're here for.
Yeah,
I'm just excited about it,
yeah.
and I'm also like enjoying it, going through it myself.
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, I mean, you've created one of the best resources that you could possibly have to train yourself up on, the
Yeah,
areas that you're weak or that you wanna round out your knowledge in a little bit more.
yeah. Oh, one while you're thinking about what you
Move past that.
okay. Well,
Oh, yeah, I
let
remember
let me
I
not forget this one thing real quick.
oh, yeah, now I'm
The
gonna
other
forget again.
like you were talking about me training myself, but the reality is a lot of our practicing biologists and foresters, and they need continuing education, and we
Right.
do have it accredited for hours for that as well. So if you're a forester, and you need some hours of credit, here it is.
Mhm. It's a really good point, and that's valuable.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what I was just thinking was in reference to that comment you made a second ago about how quickly the population can respond. So there's two ways that I've seen on a lot of these properties that turkeys respond, and one is through increased reproduction, which is what we would expect and probably the first thing you think of. But I've also seen a lot of these properties respond by just having new turkeys immigrate to the property.
they're a magnet.
Yeah, like having birds that are already adult gobblers coming in spring, and I can't tell you how many landowners I've worked with in the past that said that they used to have turkeys, all the time through deer season, but then turkey season would come around and they'd only have one or two, and it's because they didn't have reproductive cover, but now they do, and the turkeys are responding accordingly,
Mm.
and they're filling in from even surrounding areas. So that can happen really fast. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention too is that price point, man. Like just thinking about how much knowledge and how comprehensive that is for $150. I mean, that's less than you pay oftentimes to plant an acre food plot, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's like a box of shells these days. It's like,
That's right.
darn, I spent more on my darn hunting license out of state. Like
Yeah.
so. I mean, we if we weren't doing it within, we used a lot of funding from different places to help offset that cost. I guess uh,
Right.
what I'm trying to say, but the value for that to me is unmatchable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Man, I'm really curious to see the response
Mhm.
from folks. Another thing that we are doing, and it's probably irritating to folks that are taking it, but it's really necessary for us to build the best thing possible, is we have some survey stuff
I
built
was going to
into
ask you
it.
about that.
So
Yeah.
we're tracking how much and where people are gaining knowledge and what they like and don't like, those sorts of things
Mhm.
that are all going back. And man, my team of people here working on this stuff I mean, they're experts.
Right.
They're the best I could find at what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I hope that in those survey metrics, you're going to have some way of keeping up with the positive results that people see and the acreage that they impact too.
yeah, we do have a way to follow up. Now the trick is people have to respond to it,
Sure.
which the response rate isn't always stellar, but we do have a way to follow up with people. And of course we would invite, people emailing us,
Right.
questions or concerns or success stories.
Right.
We welcome all that, and keep those in our notes and use it to refine this kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would encourage folks to provide that feedback so that obviously it can be improved going forward, which is helpful in and of itself, but also from kind of more of a perspective of self-interest, particularly reporting on aspects of how the program was effective and increasing turkey populations is going to be very important because I think that that's going to start arming us with data to show, um, you know, other people and other that are involved in, anything from universities to state agencies, a model of how we
Hmm.
can start, turning things around on private land.
Yeah,
And having evidence of that it is doable and that folks will do it if you give them the information, I think could be very impactful going
yeah.
forward with as far as like how we strategically try to return turkeys to, their most abundant numbers from the past.
Well, I think that's really important. It is a daunting task to think about at scale, right? How are we going to get millions of acres?
Yeah.
But then again, our surveys from this podcast show that people have already implemented things that they learned from the podcast on literally millions of acres.
Right.
So, that I think it's important for us to track it and understand that impact and how we can get it better. But it also, like you said, provides a blueprint, right, that we can hopefully replicate elsewhere, kind of like the call share program that we just talked about
Hmm.
recently. Like that was our intent, was to show how successful that program is and how it can be replicated elsewhere. And I think those kinds of things like that, that is how we're going to get it to scale. Showing people what you're going to get out of it and providing case studies of that is really important. And then try to come up with a blueprint for how we can implement it at scale.
Right. Well, good stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Like, I guess, what would be if you're, a random landowner that was looking for something like this? What would be your questions?
Mm.
Like, what would you
Um,
want to know about it before you decide whether or not to do this?
what would I want to know about it?
And
How
folk
relevant? How
for those
relevant?
folks in YouTube, just go ahead and drop us some
Yeah.
comments with your questions, and I'll be happy to field them.
How relevant would it be to landowners outside the South?
Ooh, very good question. So, I think a lot of the concepts are solid. Like they're going to be broadly applicable. How you get there might change some
Hmm.
in some places. Particularly, I'm thinking about the Northwest or Southwest. There, some of the tools that you might use or the way you use the tools might change some, but brooding cover is brooding cover.
Right.
The composition of the plants making the brooding cover might change,
Right.
but you understanding what that looks like, how what it conveys to the population, and thinking about ways that we get there. Uh, I think that really broadly applies.
Hmm.
That being said, a lot of the people that we have involved are focused on work in the East, but we do have several folks from Midwestern states. So definitely a lot of broadly relevant stuff from other parts of the range of turkeys.
Yeah.
I would say it is directly relevant to the places that people care about turkeys and are actively managing their land for
Yeah.
turkeys.
That's a good point.
You know, there are a few landowners, go to, I don't know, pick a random state out in the upper Midwest. Most of them just don't care about turkeys,
Hmm.
or they're even a nuisance in some
Right.
cases,
Right. Imagine
but
that.
people that are deliberately managing land, that's not concentrated until you get to the eastern United States
Yeah.
generally.
So
Now
basically,
we just got 15 comments from people that are like, "That's BS. We do it on my land." Yeah, you know that's true, and there are oddballs. We'll call them in different parts of the range of turkeys, but
hmm
I just don't. personally see that really strong vested interest
Right.
out west.
So I think it sounds like it's safe to say that if you're in the eastern subspecies range, you're probably going to get a lot out of it,
I would say you definitely will,
or the Osceolas.
regardless of where
Yeah.
you're at in
Yeah.
terms of your own journey and learning how to manage for turkeys.
Yeah.
You will get a lot out of it for
Yeah.
those. And
Yeah.
you will, I think you still will get a lot. And if you're in the Rio range or Miriam range, you still get a lot of great information concepts out of it. But how you might get there may be different.
Yeah. So it sounds like certainly if you're just starting out, you're going to learn a ton. And even if you're pretty advanced, you're still going to learn a lot. We're learning from it, like you said
Yeah.
earlier.
I mean, I'm gaining a lot out of it.
Yeah. So even if you're an advanced, you would consider yourself an advanced practitioner, you're probably still going to get a lot from it. Um, what about like acreage size? Do you think it's stuff that's relevant to large and small landowners?
Yeah, in fact, multiple people during their delivery of topics talked about scale quite a bit.
Right.
And I think that's something that we leave out a lot is scale of management. We get questions a lot, like how big does the brooding cover need to
Right.
be? How far can they be apart? And I think based on what I've seen so far, that is addressed pretty well
Okay.
across different topics. You know, whether you're talking about forest management, field management. I talk a lot about connectivity, practices that you can use
Mhm.
to try to connect different things, and all of us are relating it to scale
Right.
management.
Okay.
So, which to me speaks to that issue of landowner landowner property size.
Yeah. Okay. What about if I'm in a situation where I can't cut trees or burn? Still going to be relevant to me?
Yes, big time, because
Okay.
we talk a lot about using other tools like herbicides, uh, the predator management aspects. I think those are pretty important tools in the
Right.
toolbox, and they're covered well.
Okay.
So to me, having it all in one place, that alone, like even if you think, oh, I'm good on this part, but not on that, but having it all together in one coherent, resource is pretty powerful.
Yeah. Gosh, I'm just thinking about how am I going to find time to get through all this uh, and
Well, you got to do like an hour a day or something.
I'm gonna have to take notes on it, man, and rethink the way that I do some things. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a painful process when you already, get a set of tools and approaches to using those tools that works.
yeah.
But I mean, you always got to be getting better and learning more.
Well, I think it speaks volumes to a lot of the scientists that are involved in it. Certainly to us that we are continually valuing this kind of opportunity and trying to learn from it ourselves and continually refining the way that we think about them.
Hmm.
Like that, I think there's a lot of value. I guess that's why people come to us for stuff, whether it be on uh the property visit side or just coming to listen to us or whatever. Uh, we are actively making time for that.
Right. Right.
I have made it my job, to make time to learn
Yeah.
and disseminate that to people. So
Yeah. There's not a lot of academics that do that. That are.
I wouldn't say it. There are a lot of them, but there are some that don't. We'll just put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I'm talking
I'm
about the.
not thinking about anyone in particular with that, but there definitely are some that aren't trying to learn anymore.
Well, I'm not saying that don't try to learn. I'm saying more so speaking to the applied on the ground management side of things.
Oh, there's definitely not many of those
Right. I mean, you've
that are trying
assembled.
to apply it.
Yeah. I mean, you've assembled. I mean, I would almost say like the majority of them, at least in this topic area.
Yeah. Well, I would, you know, me being a habitat guy, I really was interested in trying to get the best that there is with habitat.
Right.
The applied guys that are thinking on a day to day basis about habitat management.
That are putting it on the ground and watching the results and the response.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have some other important topics. For example, Dr. Carolina Baruzzi covers. She works a lot with native ground cover restoration, and some people, it's not good enough to have good brooding cover. You want it to be native ground cover, and when I
Hmm.
say that, I mean like a suite of species that would have historically been there. Really cool to think about, because I don't usually think about trying to restore the system back to its original functionality necessarily,
Hmm.
especially grasslands and prairie. And it's really cool to hear her perspectives on doing that.
Yeah, I'll look forward to listening to that.
So, but you know, hopefully, folks find a lot of value in this. I hope everybody signs up, and provides us feedback, learn from it, go do something good for the resource. That's, that's the ultimate value.
Yeah, get out and do it. I mean, that's ultimately why you created this, is you want to see it applied.
Exactly. I didn't just, you know what? The University of Florida would have been just fine and hunky dory without me spending so much time and several of my staff devoting their life to it for the last several months.
Yeah,
They would have been fine without us doing that. We're
yeah,
doing it because I think it's the way to go to benefit the resource.
yeah. I feel like I've been spending a ton of time on this thing, and I'm not even one of your staff. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I mean, it's got to have been filling their work weeks for a while now.
Yeah, for several weeks they have not done anything else. In fact,
Just trying to run
uh
us all down with our schedules to actually deliver the talks.
yeah, and it was really interesting because they were going to you guys. So they're like traveling all over the US trying to track down the busiest people on the planet, what it feels like. So, but
It takes an
yeah.
incredible amount of patience to work with us, I know.
Well, I've been training them well on
You have.
that.
You have.
They have an enormous amount of patience. I can tell you that for a
You
fact.
set the bar low.
No, I said it. Well, if they were doing limbo,
Yeah.
the bar's really low and they can sneak right on under it.
I meant you set the bar low as far as ease of working with you.
Yeah. Well, they
So they're
I
accustomed
can't say
to
enough how
difficult scheduling. Yeah.
yeah, I can't say enough how much I appreciate all of them and their hard work on it. I mean, they've been tremendous, upbeat. They're all having to watch these things over and over, trying
Oh,
to,
I'm so sorry.
clipping and cutting stuff together and having to re-record and just, I
Yeah.
mean,
Who all from your group worked on it, if you want to give them a shout out?
yeah. So, one of them's name, I don't know if we've said her name before, but Dot, what she goes by, but Dorothy Dick is her name, and Charlotte Nowak, that you're all familiar with because she handles podcast editing and everything, and we've had her on even a couple of times. Zach Steele, so you've heard his name because you probably get surveys regardless of what state you're in.
Right.
See a survey from Zach, go ahead and take that thing.
Yeah.
And try not to say anything hateful to him because he's got a few responses that were less than
No.
ideal from some of those. But
No.
yeah, so he's been working on this thing really hard. Uh, Anesha Lahiri is a PhD student. Actually, part of her dissertation is framed around this, trying to
Mhm.
understand knowledge gaps and what motivates private landowners to engage in management. It's another important topic.
Yeah.
Uh, that I would say that's the core team that have been doing nothing else, basically, except
Yeah.
for this for a couple months.
Yeah. That's a lot of people working on it.
Yeah, a lot of other folks in our lab, that are contributing in various ways. We've got a bunch of them taking the course,
Mhm.
to try to find any problems or errors or anything. Uh, yeah, it's been a pretty tremendous effort. We also partner with another lab that uh, they contributed the disease module.
Mhm.
So just like understanding and how to manage for disease, tricky disease.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even realize that was in there. I definitely have to watch that too, just for my own knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's uh, Dr. Sam Wisely and uh, T.J. Hafliger is the PhD student, and you guys may have heard of them before, especially if you're in Florida, because they were collecting turkey hunter kills from all over the state, and
Hmm.
we are screening for pathogens statewide and doing a bunch of genetics work. So that lab is, has the expertise to handle that part of it. But they contributed, you know, modules to this. We were trying to make it as well rounded as we could make it, man. And
Sounds like you
and
did a good job.
and the other thing, we didn't want it to be 40 hours long.
Yeah.
So we split it into two parts, and all of this one is the really applied management stuff. And then we have another one that we're developing. It'll come out soon, uh, where we have like the history of wild turkeys, going from the beginning. We have the biology of turkeys, more just understanding the species and, you know, how things have changed for it over time, that kind of stuff.
Right.
It's a little less management focused for you on your property, but might be of great interest to you if you're just an enthusiast that wants to know everything about turkeys, or if you're. We even have things related to, how to hunt turkeys, and we have experts from the hunting industry and enthusiasts from various aspects trying to build that out. So that'll be released down the road a little bit, but that's kind of how we decided to separate them so we don't end up with one gargantuan course.
Yeah. So will that be coming out later this year? Like, will it go on into next year, you think?
We will release it in 2025.
Okay.
It's a little bit more difficult to project when that will be,
Hmm.
but several of the same people have contributed something to that already. So, like for example, Dwayne Elmore is doing a general biology one but related to the mating
Right.
system.
Yeah.
And then we have some folks that are contributing to modules like describing the different subspecies and what data sets we have related to them, in terms of why we are treating them as different subspecies, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Uh, has a lot of different kinds of information. We had uh, David Holly from Mossy Oak is talking about hunting strategy, and calling, and some on the history. So, you know, another really cool resource, and it's separate from this, and they're working on it.
Yeah. I mean, if, our podcast listeners that I've interacted with over the past couple of years are any indicator, I think that one's going to be really, really popular too. There's just so many passionate turkey hunters out there that
Yeah,
want to know absolutely anything and everything they can.
yeah,
Even if they're satisfied with their management, satisfied with their numbers, and, are already really educated on that side of the house, they're going to want to hear about that, all that biology and life history information too, natural history.
yeah. I think it's important context, and it's really exciting to hear these different perspectives and learn things. I mean, even in that one, being a being there when some of them were being recorded, I was like,
Hmm.
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's cool.
Then you're also
Like there's some,
reminded of lots of things you heard before, but then, they got dusty over there in the corner and you'd forgotten about
yeah,
them.
yeah. I get
So,
reminded about things, and then sometimes it makes the light bulb turn on. It's like,
yeah.
oh,
Yep.
here's what we need to do.
Hmm.
Like that's happened multiple times.
Yep. Absolutely.
Really exciting.
Well, good, man. I'm excited to go through it, and I hope a lot of our listeners are. I think they will be.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of a relief that it's finally here,
I can
but
bet.
it's also like, man, I'm like on the edge of my seat to see
Yeah.
how folks respond to this.
It's your baby.
I know. I know.
And you just hope everybody else thinks it's as cute as you do.
Yeah. And they never do.
They never do.
All right. Well, thanks everybody out there for all your support and listening. I hope, truly do hope that folks are excited about this course, and, we made it available in the show notes. Please sign up. Let us know how it's affecting you and your knowledge and what you do with it. So we'd appreciate it. Help us share it with others. Anything that you can do, hopefully, will translate into something beneficial for the resource.
Wild Turkey Science is part of the Natural Resources University podcast network and is made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow, a grassroots organization dedicated to the wild turkey. To learn more about TFT, check out turkeysfortomorrow.org.